Abhishek Sudhir, you think it was a strong speech by the Prime Minister in Rajya Sabha today? And if you don't think so, why?
No, of course, he's one of the greatest orators in Indian political history. There's no doubt about it. But you know, what I would say is that there's an old saying, better the enemy you know than the enemy you don't. For the Prime Minister, the Congress is the enemy he knows how to beat. It's the enemy he has beaten throughout his political life, starting in Gujarat and then at the center in New Delhi. So for him, in a sense, today, I think the speech was once again about propping the Congress up as the principal opposition party to the BJP. So the Prime Minister always does this. He always ensures that in the minds of the voter, the counter to the BJP is always the Indian National Congress. That's not necessarily the case. You're seeing that there are going to be different battles fought in different states. The Congress, yes, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on your point of view, the Congress retains a chunk of 20% of the vote share in the entire country. So unfortunately, if you ask me, the Congress remains the principal opposition party. They've taken the lead in this alliance, which seems to be, not going very smoothly. But again, it falls to the Prime Minister to build up the Congress party because that is the enemy he knows. It's the enemy he knows how to beat, right? You need a new language. The opposition needs a new face, a new leader, a new ideology. My personal opinion, this alliance is not the counter to what the Prime Minister has to offer. And 2024, for me personally, I think it's a write-off. And the opposition needs to start building for 2029. You need to put together a coherent ideology, one single face. Yes.
Okay, I'll come to the BJP and NDA versus the Congress and the India alliance later, Abhishek Sudhir, but you made an important point. You say the Prime Minister knows the Congress. It remains the principal opposition party with the 20% vote share. And as I said in my opening comments, it's hard-nosed political sense. It makes hard-nosed political sense to be targeting the Congress because in that case you isolate the principal opposition party from the already fractured alliance that it has tried to make and unmake now. Ishkaran, you got a sense that the Prime Minister was really rapier-like and focused on singling out the Congress party, both in his Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha addresses. He did not mention any other leader, any other opposition party, just focused on the Congress.
I think it was a remarkable speech by the Prime Minister, both houses combined, because not only was he doing politics, there was amount of statesmanship, there was amount of Rashtra kya hai. Unfortunately, in this nation, we are seeing people to grab power are the ideological successor of those who broke India into two parts. So we had in this 5 years as a whole, because this was the last speech in the parliament, we had the Prime Minister starting by abrogating Article 370, which kept in light or in a spirit the theory of two nations alive, because it said if a landmass has a majority from one community, then the normal laws of India will not apply there. And that separatism was kept alive. So he started his tenure, the second tenure, by 370, and he joked about it also that I will get 370 seats, but I am not talking about 370 seats right now. I'm talking about Article 370. So that's one. The second aspect is you see what has happened in the last year. There is a serious attempt, a sinister attempt for politics to create a caste war in this country, which people proudly say will be the solution to Hindutva, because they imagine there is some Hindutva. The Prime Minister had to say, don't they see an OBC standing here? The biggest OBC in the biggest leader in the country. But if you have to go into that narrow politics, then you have to admit the facts of the caste of everybody. So that is there. So that there's a caste war attempt here. Then worse than that, if I may say, there is an attempt to create a regional war in India. North versus South, East versus West. That is why he had to start by giving a definition of Rashtra kya hai. And that, I think, is of seminal importance in India, because we have this idea of India, people who believe keep dividing India
Ishkaran,
into subgroups
Prime Minister
versus what is one Rashtra. What is Rashtra? I think that, to me, is the key takeaway. Economics, development and all are political and national aspects.
We are going to focus on the fact that the Prime Minister really singled out and isolated the Congress party. And Anirban, your leader's comment that the Congress can't get 40 or might be less than 40. Mamata Banerjee made that comment just a few days back. Prime Minister brought in that aspect. And he said, Khargeji said that, thank you so much for blessing us that we will cross 400. Ab ki baar 400 par. But the Congress is in a situation where it might not touch 40. So in a way, by singling out the Congress, not mentioning any other opposition leader, and with some help from comments made by Mamata Banerjee, for example, I think the Prime Minister was sending across a political message, which is that at one level, the BJP dominates the politics of the country. At the other level, the Congress, despite being the principal opposition party, does not enjoy the trust. As you said, launch, relaunch, start up, not starting up, does not enjoy the trust even of its allies, as exemplified by Mamata Banerjee's comment. Anirban.
Well, it was indeed an outstanding speech in the sense that it was shamefully politicized inside the parliament, or inside the temple of democracy that is our parliament. I mean, there will be many numbers of political meetings, rallies, etc.
You say, why he goes to a temple? When he is speaking in parliament about politics, you say, oh, it was politicized. I mean, Anirban, are you really making sense?
Okay, Mr. Modi is the Prime Minister of all the countrymen in our country, whether they are BJP supporters, whether they are Congress supporters, whether they are Trinamool supporters, whether they are CPIM supporters, doesn't matter. When he is inside the parliament, he has to play the role of the Prime Minister of all the countrymen, not just BJP supporters. He should have spoken about his own government's success or whatever he claims to be its success. He may even criticize the past governments, no problem in that. But singling out a party, a political party, he had merely reduced himself to a BJP leader, which was unbecoming of a Prime Minister of such a big democracy.
I think the Prime Minister was helping Trinamool in Bengal.
Anirban, 1 second. I would normally not interrupt you, but since you have said, first of all, Mamata Banerjee during the Amphan crisis had said, I don't consider Modi as my PM, but leave that aside. Today he has quoted your leader. Your leader said कि कांग्रेस की 40 नहीं आने वाली है.
Okay, now
that Congress will be reduced to Ali Baba 40 चोर. तो आपके लीडर को ही तो कोट किया है. प्रधानमंत्री जी को तो आपको धन्यवाद देना चाहिए कि he has quoted your leader in parliament, in the temple of democracy. अरे बताइए ना, आपका कांग्रेस पार्टी के प्रति और राहुल गांधी के प्रति जो रवैया है, उसमें हम क्या कर सकते हैं? And even when Rahul Gandhi said that this is a man with a startup but he is a non-starter or he is an upstart, ये हमारे भावना थोड़ी है. ममता बनर्जी ने बोला खड़गे लाओ, राहुल हटाओ. आम आदमी पार्टी ने बोला खड़गे लाओ, राहुल हटाओ. और जिस प्रकार से न्याय यात्रा शुरू हुई, न्याय यात्रा के पहले मायावती ने बाय बाय बोल दिया, फिर ममता दीदी ने बाय बाय बोल दिया, मिलिंद देवरा ने बाय बाय बोल दिया, आम आदमी पार्टी ने बाय बाय बोल दिया, फिर बिहार में नीतीश जी ने बाय बाय बोल दिया, यूपी में कौन बाय बाय बोलने के लिए तैयार बैठा और जनता भी बाय बाय बोल देगी. तो अनिर्बान, हमसे काहे घबरा रहे हो, हमसे काहे गुस्सा हो?
Okay, now may I complete, please? Okay, now may I please complete?
Yeah, please do, Anirban, please do.
See, these very issues that you are raising and mentioning, these are partisan political issues which will always be present when various political parties are either coming together or not coming together. These are political issues. But inside the parliament, do you expect the Prime Minister himself to reduce himself to a political leader, merely a political leader, a party leader? He is the Prime Minister of all the countrymen in our country. It doesn't matter whether that person is a congressman or a BJP man or a
I don't think he did that, Anirban.
That is the point I am trying to make. I had certainly hoped that in his last speech in the parliament as the Prime Minister of this term, he would rise above petty political partisan politics and actually act like a leader of the entire country, which he did not, which he failed to do. And that is a point of sadness for me. I'm not criticizing him because I always know that Mr. Modi cannot rise above petty politics.